All right, guys, let's get into the second half of the Week 8 matchups right now.
Fantasy Forecast.
All right, you guys excited for Week 8?
Am I excited? Well, I was very excited until Edelman ruined my weekend yesterday.
Well, I was going to say, I'm going to give a status update because I know that of all the things we see on the show, the number one thing people are concerned about is the team that was 1-4 in our league of record. My team was 1-4.
At one time.
And I came out on the air at 1-4 and said, look, I want you to follow along with me on my attempt to come back, make the playoffs, and win the league. And so I am now 3-4. That's the current situation. And I had Brady, Gronk, and Deion Lewis last night.
And you lost Arian Foster.
I lost Arian Foster in this league when I was 3-4.
And you have one of the scary best teams in this league.
And so I am almost assuredly going to win this week because I am leading 86-9 after Thursday night football. And so with lots of guys left. So stay tuned. I think I'm going to be back.
Ryan Tannehill ended up with 9 points?
Yeah.
Wow. He's lucky.
Yeah, seriously. So stay tuned. The comeback trail has been blazed. I don't know what that means. All right, the Giants head into New Orleans and take on the Saints, who are playing improved football, especially on the defensive side. Last week, they really humbled Andrew Luck minus the end of the game kind of literal collapse of, their cornerback. Right, if those get
Bro down.
So the Giants and Saints, what is essentially standing out for you in this game?
I still, despite the Saints' effort against Andrew Luck last week, I still love Eli Manning this week moving forward. I think it's a great opportunity. The Saints are still giving up a good amount of points. So Eli is a top play for me this week.
Talk to me about Orleans Darkwa.
Orleans Darkwa.
Are we talking about Orleans in Orleans?
Whoa.
That is actually kind of blowing my mind a little bit.
Boom.
Orleans Darkwa, I expect to be the starting running back for the New York Giants.
What?
I do.
Yeah, I do. I actually do too.
You guys are nuts.
Look, I've got him statted as a somewhat flexible start. He is in RB3 territory, which generally speaking, I would prefer my flex to be above an RB3. But he should have a floor that is decently high because I believe he's going to lead this team in carries this week. And New Orleans doesn't have a great run D. So, if you're in a deep league and you need a start, even after the waivers have gone through, he's probably still there. I think he's at least 90% unowned.
I still think Jennings is the man to own this backfield. I don't really want to play anyone, honestly, from this backfield. I think that Darkwa cuts into Andre Williams, if anybody. I still think Jennings is the lead.
I do agree that I see Orleans Darkwa as the Andre replacement. I do see that. The problem is I think if Andre was better, he would replace Jennings. And maybe that's Orleans.
That's all spun together to me. I mean, those are just totally different players. I mean, Darkwa is the Jennings type player. He's not the Williams type, goal line guy. Williams' role, if anything at all, is not to be the speedster. He's the blunt of the group. So for me, right. I think it eats like you two should make a bet about Darkwa and Jennings carries this week.
That's what I was gonna say.
Who has more carries or
carries this week?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What about touches?
All right.
Okay.
I'll take touches.
Okay, I'll do touches.
Water bet.
Orleans Darkwa.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's an interesting thing because for me, people had different guys at the top of the waiver list, and obviously, depending on what league you're in, guys are available, not available. Darkwa was at the top of my list because these things can get figured out if he has another big game in terms of more carries on an offense that's good. They don't like Williams. Verenas, passing down specialist. So I don't know. They needed a spark on offense. He gave it to him, 8 for 48 and a touchdown. So talk to me about the down week from Odell Beckham Jr. Do we just move past that without a blink?
Pretty much. But this was kind of the first week that he's really been practicing in full. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to show up and play. So I like Beckham to return to form. I think the problem with him is just the defense is adjusting. and he's still a smaller guy, and they're rattling him on the line, which sure he has the talent and everything to get above these, but their defenses have figured out a way to kind of slow him down a little bit more.
All right. What about Randall? Would you play Reuben Randall this week? Reuben Randall or Nate Washington?
Nate Washington.
Okay.
I'm a little
Reuben
worried.
Randall or Willie Snead?
Willie Snead.
Probably Snead.
Here's the reason I'm worried about Randall's, because I'm a little bit worried about Eli Manning. Now, this could be, like you're saying, Mike, a complete bounce-back game. It's a pretty good candidate for a bounce-back game, considering the defense he's running up against isn't the best. But you saw 2 weeks in a row where Eli Manning was horrific.
Yes.
I mean, he was just playing terrible.
Well, last week, I mean, he kind of got game flowed out. The Giants' defense took care of the scoring.
I agree.
But I agree. But it's been 2 poor performances, fantasy performances.
I think this will be a high-scoring game. I think Ben Watson's a good start. He's my start of the week at the tight end position. All right, let's move on to the 49ers at the Rams. Okay, this game's in St. Louis.
Let's move on to the Buccaneers with the Falcons.
You know, the Rams actually are playing great, so I don't want to overlook them. I think the moving on portion of our mentality should be maybe on the 49ers side.
Yeah.
Gurley, number 1 on the board this week.
Yep, I can't argue with that.
Let me ask you this. Somebody wrote in, and they're sitting at 3 and 4. They were offered Gurley for Ivory Cobb.
They get Gurley.
They give up Ivory Cobb. They are 3 and 4.
To me, it completely depends on their wide receiver depth.
Their wide receiver depth was, I'll rate it as okay.
Then no, I wouldn't do it. I would rather have Ivory and Cobb than Gurley, even though I prefer Gurley to Ivory.
Yeah, because I like Ivory a lot, but I think I would do it.
Is Gurley the best running back rest of season?
No,
he's a
Second.
top 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Top
so
3.
who would you say is the third? Because clearly Le'Veon Bell is there, Gurley is there, and then you would say the third is?
The third is an unknown at this
Okay.
point. I'm not confident enough to say Gurley is the
Sure,
number 2 moving forward.
This
but I'll give
week
him
we
top
expect
3.
him to be humongously.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What do we think about the 49ers side of the ball from a fantasy perspective? Carlos Hyde has put up pretty much pure duds for a while now. He had one kind of back in the mix game where he scored a touchdown, but this team, I mean, the Rams defense
this isn't
is
the game.
outstanding at home. They're favored by 8 points. They're
Wow.
my favorite defense.
The
to start
Rams
the
are
season.
favored by 8
yeah.
points. Congratulations, Rams fans.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
and their defense was on the mark last week.
You
against
combine Carlos Hyde's injury problem with his foot against this Rams defense, and Colin Kaepernick just
Do you just straight
spiraling.
up sit? Do you sit Carlos Hyde?
You probably don't have a better option, but
Carlos Hyde or Darkwa?
I'd still play Hyde.
I would as well, but that's where it's close. And I think that there is
Carlos
think
Hyde
there
or
are-
CJ Spiller?
Oh man,
if you're in a PPR, I think you might be able to make that move. To
yeah, it's
Spiller.
Spiller. Oh, that's very close.
But in general, I would take Hyde. There are plenty of leagues out there, though, where you have a replacement for Hyde and you can sit him.
There are?
I think so. I definitely think
I
so.
think there was a lot of people who turned down trades for Carlos Hyde after week 1 and thought that they had, we said it on the show. We asked the question, is Carlos Hyde a top 5 running back rest of season? And I think our consensus was
we said a top 10.
okay. So top 10, we kind of said, yeah, we think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns out their offense is that bad
Well,
that he can't be productive, and the injury.
The truth is, if he could do exactly what he did in the first week, he'd be a top 10 running back.
Well, excellent.
every
and Lamar Miller would be a Hall of Famer. So.
every play I watch, I think Hyde is extremely talented. He is.
Yes,
he runs
agreed.
great behind that line. It's just when you're a power running back, you have to be on a team that has a lead every now and then. And that's not really the case for the San Francisco.
The Buccaneers head into Atlanta and take on the Falcons, who are favored by 7. The line in this game is about 50 points. Winston Ryan facing off in this one. I think the big kind of fantasy takeaway for me from this game that needs to stand out for you, we're all starting Devontae Freeman. We're all starting Julio Jones. We're all starting Doug Martin at this point. I expect Mike Evans to have a monster game this week, a top 5 type of game. If Vincent Jackson sits, which he's most definitely going to do, in fact, his injury is probably multi-week, Mike Evans is simply too big, too fast, too strong to be stopped. And this team isn't the team to stop them. They're 25th against the pass. Mike Evans is a must start this week.
Completely agree. I think he gets force-fed targets, and no Safarian Jenkins, no V-Jacks. It's and no Murphy, who was their third wide receiver. So I mean, the Buccaneers are hurting.
If you had been waiting for Evans to kind of get into the flow, you saw it start last week. V-Jacks missed half the game. He went out in the third quarter. So I think the sky's the limit for Mike Evans.
Absolutely.
I kind of like Sims. In this game because, like I said, they're
struggling down.
They're struggling for pass catchers. So, and Sims has been playing quite well. He's just overshadowed right now because Martin has exploded the last 3 weeks.
It's kind of a bewildering thing to have kind of two relevant running backs from this offense because in the preseason we talked about how, we thought they would be the exact same fantasy relevance as the Titans are right now.
Right.
Which is don't touch the backfield with a 20-foot pole, right?
You might get a disease.
Did you see they diagnosed someone with bubonic plague?
What?
You guys are both surprised.
Who's got the plague?
There was a little girl in
I thought you were saying
me too.
A player?
Someone in the NFL has come down with the bubonic plague.
No.
Where's this little girl?
In Oregon.
Oh,
yeah,
she'll be fine. Like, apparently there have been 8 cases of bubonic plague since, like, the 90s.
Yeah, every once in a while they pop up.
I just thought it was
it's
just a random piece of news I read this morning.
It's just a little bit of plague.
I only thought about
it's just a little.
I thought about it when I said I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. I was like, because, the backfield in the Titans is kind of like the bubonic plague. That's the stretch I was reading. That's where I ended up. Okay, so do we expect Matt Ryan to put up a top 12 performance this week?
I do. I think the matchup is great for Matt Ryan, and
is that what your sports almanac tells you?
I've looked to the future, and I'm not saying top 5, but I think Matt Ryan finally gets back on track this week.
All right, let's move on to the Jets facing Oakland. Jason, give me your thoughts on the Fitzmagic Carr combo here. Do you think Ryan Fitzpatrick has a chance at a top 12 performance this week?
Yeah, I do. He was close to my stream of the week. The Raiders' defense is okay. It's not a defense that you can just flat say start everyone against them. However, their pass D is their weakest point. And so the Jets, Fitzpatrick, he has weapons. And that's really one of the things we look for a successful quarterback. Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, those guys are both going to have decent games this week, so that should propel him to a top 12 start. Derek Carr, who I think this show loves, we're big fans of. Nobody's a bigger fan of him than you, Andy. You are like his mother. And
I'm like his mother.
But this is a week where I would be more fearful to start him. We saw last week he put up a great game against San Diego, but San Diego was missing one of their best players in their secondary.
Weddle, they're the free safety.
Yeah, so that helps, and they were coming off a bye. I don't expect Carr to carve up the Jets.
You are a cunning linguist, my friend.
Yeah, so I like Fitzpatrick quite a bit. Ivory should be healthy as much as Ivory gets healthy. He practiced in full this week. Zach Stacy came in sections of the game last week, and he failed miserably.
Jason's
raising his hand.
His hand is
up.
up.
I have a question for you two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is Stephen Ridley a pick-up and stash guy at this point right now?
No.
With Ivory's?
No.
You don't think so?
Not at all.
Okay. So you're a not at all.
I will say this. I've paid very close attention to that situation, being an Ivory owner. Ridley started practicing. He may end up getting activated based on Bilal Powell's injuries and things like that. But from everything I've read from the New York writers, from people observing him at practice, he doesn't have – even the coaches have said he doesn't have the burst that he needs to play right now. You mix that together with the fact they already have Stacy and Powell in depth. I mean, to me, it's just like saying, it's a Sankey at best situation.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for because I haven't really followed closely on the Stephen Ridley train.
I'm glad you brought it up because people are asking that question. And the time may come this season where you'd want to grab him as your handcuff for the playoff run if he turns out to be that handcuff. But right now it's not the case. So what else do we need to talk about from this game? Would you start Michael Crabtree against the Jets? Is he an option because Cooper might be locked down with Revis?
I would start him. I don't. He's not a full.
Would you still start Cooper?
Yeah, you have to start Cooper.
Statistically, the Jets are 4th against the pass, 1st against the run, and the Broncos are 1st against the pass, 4th against the run. So they're equivalent, kind of defensive statistically, or their equal defense is kind of in that upper echelon, probably the best two pure defenses in the league. The only problem I'd say with the Jets D is that you're going to go into the playoff schedule, and if you're in Week 16, they get to face the Patriots, and you just don't want to touch that. So make sure you have multiple options in your playoff run.
So if you're desperate for a tight end, and we know that tight ends have had pretty good success against the Raiders, are you throwing out Cumberland?
I have a really hard. Yeah, I don't either.
Other options. There are other options. I'd rather play probably Walford on the other side of the ball.
You know who is
for upside.
You've also got Decker. To me, is he's going to fill in those zones that the tight ends leak to. So you might see that as the same. I mean, obviously it's the same exact defense that's having to guard Decker, and Decker might be a better play.
Decker had his first game of the season without a touchdown.
So that means 2 touchdowns.
But he had 94 yards still. So, I mean, he's played exceptionally well. If he sits, however, the Brandon Marshall show and Target Express is going to come. So